This video lesson covers the impact of urbanization on the local environment and the use of rain gardens as a possible solution. Support for the development of this lesson has been provided by the National Science Foundation through the Ohio University's Boat of Knowledge in the Science Classroom program. If you've ever been in a car during a heavy rainstorm, you've most likely noticed streams of water running alongside the curb. But have you ever wondered where all that stormwater ultimately ends up? Does it go to the same place as our sewage water? What about the rainwater which falls in, say, a natural environment or over farmland? Rainwater really only has three places it can go. It will either trickle into the ground and collect in underground reservoirs, fall on the surface and form runoff, or evapotranspirate back in the atmosphere as water vapor. The degree to which it does any of these will ultimately depend on land use. For example, in a natural or rural environment, there will be more infiltration and evapotranspiration. As an area becomes more developed, there will be more runoff and less infiltration and evapotranspiration. Why do you suppose this might be? The answer is fairly simple. Developed surfaces like pavement and rooftops don't allow for the passage of water, and we call these types of surfaces impervious surfaces. Natural ground cover is most often permeable and allows for the passage of water. You wouldn't want a rooftop that lets water enter the house, otherwise all of your stuff will end up getting ruined. So these surfaces are incidentally engineered to keep water out, and the result is more runoff in urban areas where there is lots of pavement and little natural ground cover. Of the images shown here, can you determine which of the surfaces are impervious or permeable? And how do you think runoff water would behave in these areas? The brick pavement would be impervious, the roadside garden would be permeable, and the grass pavement would be semi-permeable. To handle these large volumes of rainwater runoff quickly and efficiently, municipal infrastructure is designed with a complex water collection system known as a storm sewer. Older rainwater collection systems mixed human wastewater and stormwater runoff together in a combined sewer system, but this practice has become obsolete with the introduction of wastewater treatment technologies. Modern sewer systems for wastewater and rainwater are generally separated into two different streams: a sanitary sewer and a storm sewer. Municipal sewage is diverted to a wastewater treatment plant in a sanitary sewer, where it is treated to remove solids, pathogens, excess nutrients, really anything that can devastate an aquatic ecosystem, back to acceptable levels before discharging the clean water into the nearest lake or stream. Unlike sewage, stormwater runoff is not treated before it is discharged. Runoff is conveyed to a separate storm sewer using storm drains located alongside roadways or in parking lots. The runoff travels through a series of underground piping before finally making its way back into rivers and streams at various discharge locations. If you have ever closely inspected a storm drain before, you may have seen these small fish shines indicating that the drain leads to a stream. It might read something like, "No dumping drains to stream." This then begs the question, why would we treat sewage and stormwater runoff differently? Does it matter if we don't properly treat stormwater? It's only rainwater, right? Well, not exactly. When rainwater flows over paved surfaces and lawns, it tends to pick up the nasty chemicals and garbage which are a byproduct of the urban environment. Stormwater runoff is actually one of the leading causes of water pollution and a major problem in heavily urbanized areas. As cities expand to accommodate growing populations, the severity and extent of water pollution increases. Increased urban development may also interfere with the natural water cycle, destroy wildlife habitat directly or indirectly, and impair biodiversity in aquatic ecosystems. When designing and developing urban areas, it is important to keep these environmental issues in mind. Before exploring any environmental alternatives to current runoff management practices, let's try to get a better understanding of how our urban development impairs local hydrology, aquatic ecosystems, and water quality. Increased urbanization can affect the hydrology of an entire watershed. The images here depict the natural water cycle and the urban water cycle. You should already be familiar with the natural water cycle, so we'll go over the urban water cycle a little bit more in depth. During rain events in heavily urbanized areas, runoff volumes are increased and exceed the rate of water infiltration. This means that a portion of the rainwater that would have once been stored in the ground or transpired by plants is instead quickly diverted to streams. Large storms are then more likely to cause flooding when runoff volumes are not reduced in part by groundwater recharge. Flooding and high stream flow rates also tend to erode stream banks and destroy aquatic habitats. Groundwater storage plays a vital role in regulating the baseline flow of water in streams. Water flows into streams from the ground when the water table is at or near the same elevation as the stream. When there is less water held underground, streams aren't able to be replenished as quickly and baseline flow levels are lowered. If there isn't much natural ground cover, as in an urban environment, groundwater isn't available for river recharge. This is magnified by spells of dry weather. While flooding and low baseline flow in streams may seem like a contradiction, both are symptoms of a poorly designed urban landscape. The variability in flow of an urban stream makes it difficult for aquatic organisms to survive. Urban stormwater can be thought of as a chemical cocktail consisting of a variety of different compounds and pollutants. Anything that comes into contact with runoff has the potential to be washed out, which means anything lying on the ground. Some of the more common and potentially detrimental pollutants found in urban runoff may include trash, garbage, and debris, toxic metals like cadmium and lead that do not degrade, suspended solids picked up from roadways and ground surface erosion, pathogenic bacteria and protozoa like E. coli, oil and gasoline on pavement surfaces, biocides applied to lawns and gardens, hazardous chemicals found at industrial sites, and heat carried away from surfaces. Take a moment to compare these two images. The image on the left is of an urban impaired stream, while the one on the right is unimpaired. How does the urban stream differ? If you look at the stream banks, you'll notice that the urban stream is heavily eroded with exposed tree roots. The channel is also incised, meaning that the banks are higher and the flow is confined to a small stream at the bottom of the channel. Under the high peak flow conditions typical of urban streams during rain events, incision of the stream channel is incredibly common. Loss of the riparian zone, or floral cover near the banks, is another indicator of an impaired stream. Again, this is more common in urban streams and is due to a lowered groundwater table. Plant roots can become separated from the groundwater table and may not be able to take in water as effectively, hence little to no plant life next to the urban stream banks. More difficult to see, you may also notice how homogeneous the soil composition is in the urban stream versus the natural stream. This is due to the variability in flow between dry and wet periods. Additionally, the water appears murky due to a higher solids loading to the urban stream. The combined effect of all of this is loss of habitat and decline of aquatic biodiversity around the stream and within the stream itself. Sensitive organisms are not as able to thrive in severely impaired urban streams, though tolerant filter feeders and deposit feeders may have no trouble surviving under these conditions. So what can we do to fix the problems associated with urban runoff? If the title of this video didn't make it obvious enough, one possible answer to this problem is through the use of rain gardens. There are several treatment options widely available, but rain gardens may be the most economical and sustainable solution. The photo shown here is of a rain garden Marietta constructed by previous books fellow Andy Long. So what is a rain garden? A rain garden is basically a shallow depression in the ground that is used to facilitate infiltration of stormwater runoff. They are planted with a variety of native plant species, which are oriented into different zones within the garden. Rain gardens come in all shapes and sizes. A small rain garden may be planted near a house to capture runoff from the rooftop, and a larger one, like the one shown, may be situated at the edge of a large parking lot to capture runoff from the pavement instead of using storm drains. There are many added benefits to constructing a rain garden. Rain gardens are versatile and can be used for nearly any drainage area. They are cost-effective and aesthetically pleasing. They require little to no maintenance after the construction. They restore natural habitat for wildlife. They reduce or eliminate ponding water in yards. They can improve the water quality of storm runoff. They reduce peak flow rates in streams. They allow for groundwater recharge and improve overall stream habitat and water quality. The main function of a rain garden is to reduce the volume of runoff at an urban site. This is achieved through facilitated infiltration and evapotranspiration. To illustrate this, we will walk through how a rain garden responds to a rain event. First, rainwater is directed off of impervious surfaces and enters the garden area through a downspout or swale. The rainwater infiltrates through a permeable soil mixture called bioretention soil, which is designed for drainage and water retention capabilities. Typically, the bioretention soil is a mixture of the native soil with some fraction of sand, loam, or organic material mixed in. A gravel bed is placed beneath the bioretention soil to allow for deep infiltration and groundwater recharge. An underdrain is included in some designs to prevent excessive ponding when the bioretention soil or underlying native soil have difficulties draining water and extra drainage capacity is needed. A permeable geotextile is placed on the sides of the garden to hold the bioretention soil in place. An overflow inlet or spillway is included to prevent flooding of the garden. Ponding water on top of the garden area will drain into this once it reaches a certain height. This outlet may drain directly into a storm sewer or nearby stream channel. Finally, native plants are arranged depending on water requirements. More water-tolerant plants are placed at lower elevations, where ponding is more likely to occur. Plants also help remove water from the garden by uptake from the soil, then subsequent transpiration of water vapor back into the atmosphere. Contaminant removal from stormwater runoff is generally not an active rain garden design consideration, especially for small-scale gardens. The focus is mostly on reduction of runoff volumes within urban areas, and treatment is just an added bonus. Rain gardens remove contaminants through several complex processes, and the effectiveness of treatment will usually depend on the pollutants involved, as well as how they behave. There are two processes of contaminant removal in rain gardens: phytoremediation and natural filtration. As you probably have a vague understanding of how filtration works, we'll take a closer look at phytoremediation instead. The United Nations Environmental Program defines phytoremediation as the direct use of living green plants for in-place removal, degradation, or containment of contaminants in soils, sludges, sediments, surface water, and groundwater. In a typical phytoremediation scenario, soluble contaminants are taken in by the plant or degraded in the root zone. Contaminants which are taken in may be degraded at the surface of the plant or volatilized into the atmosphere as a gas alongside transpiration processes. Phytoremediation is currently not well understood and is an ongoing area of intense research in scientific communities. One caveat of phytoremediation is that it will contaminate the plant itself. Contaminants are removed from the water stream, but are now contained within the plant itself. This is problematic for edible plants, so it's best not to include these in a rain garden. There are many different aspects of a rain garden that help to improve its abilities to reduce pollution and improve aquatic ecosystems. Rain gardens serve as a sustainable solution to water management in urban areas without the need to drastically alter the environment. Building a rain garden takes about as much effort as a regular garden and is an excellent project for nearly anyone. For more information on rain gardens, or how to design and construct your own rain garden, visit the links provided here.